You are listening to Level Up Your Gaming Podcast, episode 95, Fitting Games to Your Players. Today we talk about fitting games to your players. We discuss how to craft games that your players will enjoy. We also discuss spotlights and other techniques for analyzing your players for the creation of a perfect game. If you'd like to participate in the discussion or leave us feedback, you can contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. If you like the content and want to hear more of the show, subscribe and we'll ensure you don't miss an episode. New episodes come out almost every Wednesday. Also, please review, tell a friend about the podcast, or share with your gaming group. Now sit back and enjoy the episode. Welcome into the Level Up Your Gaming Podcast. My name is Aaron, and joining me in person, I don't have a good shtick this week, so Jared.
Kind of like that almost, and Jared.
Well, okay. I mean, it started with the Son of the Commonwealth, and, I just kept going.
The Son of the Commonwealth, God damn it.
Just kept kind of going on and on about it.
Great Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
So anyways, how you doing today, Jared?
Not bad. A little headachy. I've had a headache all freaking day.
Yeah. I came in, started setting up the stuff. I heard about it. Sorry, that's awful.
And my back's been acting up all week.
Did you foam roll?
I did not foam roll today. I stretched, but I didn't foam roll. What?
I think I know the answer.
I better roll.
Better roll.
Would
you like some butter with that roll? Huh?
Actually, so interesting. Are you ready?
Yes.
Guy I know, right? Ended up joining the Army, got into sniper school, right? Did great at marksmanship training, but completely bombed the camouflage course. He went up to his instructor and asked why, and the instructor said, "I never saw you there." Boom. How's that for a joke?
Good joke. Good joke. All right. Well, if you enjoy our corny jokes, we'll be here all. We'll release our Christmas album this year.
Holy night.
The Jared and Aaron Yuck Hour. Okay, we'll just
yuck.
Well, anyways, our topic for today is going to be. It's been a little bit since we talked about. We keep dancing around it. We've talked about it a lot, actually, and that is fitting games to your players. We talk about breaking the mold with your players
a lot, yeah.
A lot. But this is actually this is the core of it, and this sort of kind of goes all the way back to KYP episode 2. If you haven't listened to episode 2, listen to it. Audio isn't great on it, but episode 2, or now you can listen to this one here. This is going to be similar to it in that regard. We're not really talking about the player type specifically, but more about how you kind of mold a game to your players, and how you make that experience so the game is one that you want to tell, and one that your players are going to enjoy. So again, you're marrying those two concepts here.
Yep.
And we've already told how to tell the game that you want to tell, but how do you get it to be something that your players like?
I think this is a good topic. I mean, I think we talk a lot about radicalization of games. We don't. It's been a long time since we've talked about the foundation, the cake, the actual cake of the cake. The bread.
Yes.
The cake.
But you got to choose your ingredients. You got to choose what goes into that cake. And if you got a character who is gluten-free, well, I'm sorry, we're making a glutinous cake. No, I'm just kidding.
A player.
a player. But
okay. So it starts off with analysis.
Yes.
Okay, that's going to be my first recommendation to old storytellers, new storytellers that are just, hey, what's going on with this podcast? And I want to listen to some episodes.
I apologize for the dog that's barking in the background again.
It's not mine.
Not Jared's dog. It's a neighbor's dog. Not a soundproof studio. Do apologize.
Living room. Okay, so it begins with analysis, and an open, honest analysis. If you are not being open and honest in your examination of your players and yourself, it's a fruitless endeavor. It has to start with the search for truth. So when you sit down, right? So for example, I can tell one thing about me. It's the truth. It's an unfortunate truth. I wish it wasn't the truth. Jared does not do medieval times. He does not do shit before the invention of cars and guns. He doesn't like it.
Which is weird because you've actually introduced some stuff about that.
Yes, but notice in the world there are still
guns. You're still in modern world, but it's not it's like you went to the Ren Fair in the modern world.
If you're talking about Vothane,
yeah.
At any time my players could have walked back to their truck, popped open the back, grabbed the shotguns.
They would have helped us in that crypt.
Would have helped a lot in the crypt. And handled it rather tactically. There's tactics in modern world, but I'm just not. It's not a genre that catches my eye very much. I like having fantasy elements in a modern setting. I have no clue what that little beep was.
Sorry, that was a Discord. We quit that. There you
go. But it's a fact of myself. I've tried to do more historical games. I've tried to do a samurai game.
Which I actually really liked the samurai game, but you didn't like it because of
I didn't like it. It just it doesn't get me going, if you know what I mean. It just doesn't. And I lose love of it very quickly. And when I don't love a story, I don't stick with it. I don't. Well, it might be different nowadays now that we're doing more episodic games. But the reason that I bring this up is to come back to analysis. That is an open analysis. So if I've got two players, Brian and Aaron, saying, we love the medieval setting. Love it. Perhaps I am not the best storyteller for that game. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It would just, I can try it. Maybe with the short episodic system, I could do it. Not with a long, protracted campaign. So it starts with an analysis, and literally, actually, it doesn't start with self, right? The analysis starts with player. My player's at my table, right?
Yeah, this is about making sure the game fits the players. So you need to make sure that the players, you need to know who's at your table and what tends to be the elements they like. Okay, do they like combat? Okay. Do they like more of a mental, heady game? Do they like puzzles? Do they like, a big social aspect? Do they like investigation? Do they like mystery? Do they like intrigue? Okay. Figure out what they like, and then start thinking about games that you might want to tell that fit that mold.
Right. And at the table, you're not going to have everyone wanting the same thing, right? So you're going to have two players who are like, all we like to do is beat shit. Then you have one player who's like, I really like puzzles. I sit and do the New York crossword every Sunday. Then you're going to have one person who's like, oh, no, I really love the idea of politicking. It is all, not always, but for the most part, it's going to be a hodgepodge a lot of times. Sometimes it won't be. Sometimes you've got a crew of people who just want to murk things.
And then some players you'll have, which this is the best player to have. You're going to have like the chameleon who kind of likes whatever you tell. Okay, which is great. You need to have chameleons in the group. Because if you don't have chameleons in the group, it's really, really hard to merge the other player types. Again, if you go back to KYP, some players are harder to fit into to other stories because the chameleons are easier to tell stories to because any story that you tell, they'll more or less like. But like some players are the ones like that you have to satisfy in order for the game to be successful. Like, for example, when I'm telling for Jared and Brian, Jared is that player.
Yeah.
Okay. If I make sure that most of the elements don't like hit your bugaboos, then the game's going to be successful.
Yeah. It just,
I'm not trying to be mean to you here.
I know. But it's the truth. I mean, like, I have personal preferences. I do. There's some bugaboos. There's some things that are a thorn in my ass.
In some bugaboos, you'll let go.
Yeah.
Okay? Depending on how they work. But I know the real bugaboos, which are you don't like when things are out of your control as the character. You want to make sure that your character can usually solve the problem.
There's at least some capability to solving the problem, yes.
Okay? And you also don't like a ton of restraints in front of you, meaning that you like to kind of creatively solve problems. Like sometimes you'll look up, on like when we were doing modern games in like based in Chicago or something, you'd look up on Craigslist somebody who's selling a car, and you'd be like, "So this person's selling a car. I'm going to go buy this car right now."
I would.
Like that was a very common thing that you would do. You like to solve very practical problems. You're also very tactical. At the same time,
Yes.
you're very tactical in the sense of like how you like to sort of plan things, but then you also have the same thing where like, well, actually no, you do overplan your executions, which is great. It makes for very interesting plans that come about, and you like kind of like that analytical side of the game.
I do. But going back to not just a psychoanalysis of Jared's preferences as a player, but look how much Aaron has looked into what I as a player tend to enjoy. Brian, thankfully, is the chameleon. I mean, like, he will play science games, he will play medieval, he will play future, he will play anything.
Brian is a chameleon. Brian likes anything. He doesn't really dislike anything that we do. You're
both suckers for investigations, though.
What?
You're both suckers for investigations.
Oh man, we love the mystery, Jared. It's like
the mystery, I know, is your hook, and that's the second thing. So not only you're looking for what they dislike, you're looking for what they like. I know Brian and Aaron are
you just got to put a big door,
a door that is different color than all the rest of the doors. They're like, I need to know why that door is a different color. Like, they have to fucking know it.
Jared knows exactly how to throw out the stakes. And like, we're just like wolves to that stake. Like, how do we get to that? How do we get to that stake?
Oh shit! He's still standing there with a rifle. Risk it. I mean, it's knowing what gets your players excited, and this does take some games. It takes a few games to know them. You might not know them off the top of your head, for example. Especially, excuse me, with nowadays with online gaming platforms like Roll20.
That's a great.
You actually don't know who's joining your game.
That's actually a great thing to bring up, because you could typically, I don't know. I know you can sort of interview sometimes the people who are going to kind of come through, or you can post the game that you want to play and that you're looking for players. Be super specific about the players in your tags and what you want from the players. Say, these are my expectations. This is the game I'm going to tell. It's a little bit different because you're finding the people, and you want to find people who match the player type that you want to story tell to.
Yes,
it's very different from like if you just like go to like a gaming store and you sit down with a bunch of people, or you're at a con, you sit down with a bunch of people. You don't know who you're going to get. You're going to get a mixed bag. Okay, and so typically in like that one shot type game, you're trying to tell sort of like a rainbow game, where it's kind of got a lot of different elements for a bunch of different people. Or
you just make it very clear at your booth or table that, like, this is a game of extreme horror.
Yeah, or right before you start, give the 5-minute rundown about how the game is going to be, the tone that you're setting with the game. Say, if this isn't something you want to do, like, this might not be the game for you.
Make a fucking sign.
But even if you do that, you're going to get somebody who's going to be like, I could totally do that. And they don't like that type of game at all.
No,
but they're going to sit there and play in your game, and so thus still make it sort of that rainbow game. Okay?
Yeah, rainbow is what you should add or shoot for cons and stuff like that. Agreed. But talking about a typical table, people you know, people you've been possibly friends with for years. You know, what you really need to do is first off establish that baseline. You know, look at, do my characters like the horror genre? Do they like the investigation genre? Do they like the combat genre? Once you've kind of looked into that, look into specific emotional kicks. You know, and sorry, going back to genres, time periods. You know, they love the Lord of the Rings setting. They love the Dark Ages setting. They like the Firefly setting. Just add something new in there. Star Wars. You know, future stuff. Not a whole lot of gaming systems surrounded modern. Do they like World of Darkness? It's one of the few. GURPS, I think, also has GURPS. I know has a lot of modern content. So once you've kind of established your setting that you know is palatable for the majority of your players, and you've established a genre that you know is, because here's the thing, you know, for example, if you've got your heavy hitters, you know, they want action. There's nothing wrong with an action that has, and we've talked about it in multiple podcast spotlight scenes. You know, that's truly the key to keeping your table really engaged is those spotlight moments. When you're just doing KYP and setting up the foundations of your game, you should go with genres, settings, themes that are palatable for most players. Okay, that's what you're aiming for is the rough majority, right? You want to get most people, because and we've all got the friend who's, you know, all five of us love Lord of the Rings. He's like, fuck Lord of the Rings, Star Wars. We've all got the one friend. Or the one person at our table, except for Brian, Aaron, and I, because, you know,
there's not so many of us.
there's three of us.
Again, it gets much easier to get to a consensus with three people. Okay, when you add a fourth person in there, good God, it was really tough. It was tough when we had Ken, because Ken did not like the game that we played.
No, he hated investigations,
and it was like oil and water. Like, we loved it, he hated it. Okay, all three of us loved it. He hated it. When you have that one person who doesn't like it, it's really hard because you have to start adding in elements for that person.
Yeah, spotlight moments.
Spotlight moments. How do you do that? And I think that had we been even better GMs at that time, we probably could have made better spotlight moments for him to give him more of a feeling like he's accomplishing what he wants to accomplish in the game.
Right. So once you've established theme, mood, setting, genre, then you start looking at specific emotional kicks. Ken loved the idea of a love story. Loved the idea of a love story. I think I could have raised his interest level by 2,000% had I introduced a love interest for his character.
He loved that idea. He loved the idea of kind of like being a martyr in the game.
He always loved being a martyr.
Yeah. Like there's a lot of things that he really liked, a lot of tropes that he liked. And he really liked watching kind of story unfold. He liked to be an observer to an act, to like a play almost. Not as much of the actor in the play, but more of the observer behind the scenes.
Yes.
Or a rider on the roller coaster, which is not a bad place to be. Okay? Because you need people to come along for the ride.
Yes.
Right? And that's the thing. Because you're going to have more heady characters who drive story. And, you know, again, you're going to need to identify who are those people at your table.
Mm-hmm.
How are you able to get them to mix with the people who are more of the people who ride along, like Roger in your other
Roger is the ultimate I sit back and observe.
Yeah, Roger sat back and observed. He always seemed like he must have always had a good time. He kept coming.
Yeah, no, Roger very seldom complained, and when you actually created a spotlight moment for him, I mean, he stopped me a couple of times and was like, Jared, that was a really cool scene that you made for me. I really appreciated that. Roger was actually a really good player.
But he was the ultimate, I'm just along for the ride kind of player.
Yeah, like you could not expect him to take an action. It was very seldom that he took action.
So, again, you got to identify who are your players that are going to drive your story? Who are the players who aren't going to do it? This is one of the things when you get into like the sandbox game, you think about when we had Nick as our group.
Oh my
Nick
God.
was the ultimate take the reins, steer the car. We're
Yes.
going off the cliff or we're not going to go off the cliff. Like, I'll decide. Okay? Like, he was very much that player.
He was.
And when you do a sandbox game, your games will tend to revolve around the player that's ready to drive the car.
Yes.
All right? And less around the people who are here to observe the story. And so that's why when you're creating a story, when you're creating a game, when you're looking at your players that you have, again, Jared's right. This is why we've talked about the spotlight moment. You're trying to highlight the players. We also got to know, like, how can I rein back that character? How can I get these other characters to maybe step up a little bit and not just be an observer and a passenger all the time?
Well, that's where the spotlight moment comes in, and to an extent, some side stories. You know what I mean? It starts off with a spotlight moment, and then if you have the time, if you feel like the player's attuned to it, like maybe a story for them finally, you can create a larger side story that revolves around more of that character being in a leadership role, while the other players continue having spotlight moments. They have their own spotlight moments, but you got to be always very balanced with side stories that truly revolve around a player. I don't recommend one that revolves around a single player. It doesn't revolve around them. It hits them in a certain way. That's what you want. So, for example, let's take Ken, for example. I would not do his love story because that's as a side story because it revolves around one person. Well, we're talking about polygamy. It really revolves around one person. However, his enjoyment in martyrdom, that is a theme of a side story that I could run where I can make sure there are elements that Aaron enjoys, Brian enjoys. It's just going to hit Ken a little bit harder because it is the talk about, three will rise, one will die. I mean, I think if the catch line was three will rise, one will die, I think both you and Brian would be interested. Like, okay, why are three rising and one dying? I think Ken would be over the fucking moon about it. Like, oh my God, I'm going to be the one to die. I'm going to be the one to die. In the same regard, you just need to make sure that when you are building those side stories that hit a player, you're targeting a player a little bit more. I never want to say you are targeting that player. You are targeting them a little more. Okay, you're making sure that there's some low light in the entire stage. You always got to make sure that everyone is captured by the story. Okay, I can't say everyone because you're always gonna you might have one person who's like, three will rise, one will die. Come on, Jared.
So here's the problem: is that you're going to have players, and we talked about the crunch factor in there, who are just I just want combat, I just want to fight, I just want to do combat.
Yes.
Okay, and it's not impossible to run a game that's heavy action oriented. Okay, that has a good story behind it.
No, it's not impossible at all.
It's very easy to do that, and the thing is that when you get to players who want to have the crunchy action-oriented games, as opposed to the more of the heady players who like to play tactical, sweeping, even the ride-along type characters, everyone, I would say almost everyone sort of likes combat.
Just, to
an extent, okay? Everyone sort of can sit in that box and do it, okay? Mm-hmm. They know it's part of the game, like it's what the heck the games basically came out of was combat.
Right.
So, but all the other stuff that goes in, like the story and like the mystery and all that other things, like it's much harder for the person who really likes combat to like those elements. Yeah. Okay. And when you're trying to bridge that gap, if you got one person's way over here who's just like, I love story, you better give me a really damn good story. And you got like, I don't care, just give me stuff to beat up. When you have those wide gaps effectively. He's probably the one who's like, one will die, three will rise, one will die. Like, that's so stupid. And like, your player over here is like, I love that. Like, it's the best thing ever.
And here's the thing: the great thing about combat, your crunchiness factor is there's in this world there's a ton of opportunity for combat. There just is. Okay, it just takes one person being a jerk. That's all it takes.
You've actually become more restrained with it. Like, I've tried to get you into multiple bar fights.
I have.
You were much more restrained with it, especially in the game that I'm telling right now.
Dude, because I'm wrapped up in the fucking mystery of this shit, okay? Like, I don't have time to be fighting dickheads, all right? Ricky Tick, motherfucker, we got like 6 hours.
I made you get into a fight.
You forced us. Like, we're like, no, motherfucker, we got bigger fish to fry. And, like, we're not going to dive. I got shit to do. So... One of the things, the nice thing about crunchiness factor, if you have a highly political game, all it takes is somebody being a jerk at a dinner party.
A jerk. Somebody turns and says, fuck you, or somebody pushes your guy.
Your political guy, all right. Crunchiness factor guy. Handle that one. Take him to the bathroom and handle him. You just have to direct that missile, okay? That's all you really have to do for the crunchiness factor. It's so much easier in, like, Dark Ages day, we're talking about kingly negotiations. One of the guards seems to be a dick to your king. King goes, make sure that guy doesn't wake up tomorrow morning.
It's so easy to handle the guy who's got the crunchiness factor because it's easy to put him into fights.
Yeah, fights are easy.
Fights are easy. Somebody could run in. You're driving between two places. Boom. Somebody runs into the car. Get into a fight. Okay.
He comes out and starts beating the crap out of your windshield after he hit you. Okay. Well, crunchiness guy, go handle it. Crunchiness is really easy to handle. But, if you look at like most modern movies, even though there's action, they can have a really compelling story inside. You know what I mean? And that's the thing, is coming up with a compelling story that everyone will enjoy, and then injecting violence. Making sure, Aaron and I have talked about a good, you need a good row. Unless you like a whole party who were like, we prefer not to get into fights. We prefer the cerebral games where we're figuring out puzzles.
It's kind of like a roller coaster. I mean, like, you have these moments of intense action that come down, and you're trying to plan them as the peaks, and you're trying to put them into the place. Again, Jared's golden rule. And if you're listening and you take one thing away from this podcast, take this away, because this has helped me. This is the greatest thing ever. 1 combat per night. Or every other night. Okay?
Every other night is typically what I go for.
Every other night is good, but like, if you got somebody who's really, really likes the crunchy, just do 1 combat every night. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. It can be something where it is a total mismatch scale. Like, it doesn't have to be like a planned encounter that's like super intense. It can just be like thugs. Okay.
And to be perfectly honest, so typically the crunchiness guy
just wants to win it.
Just wants to win. He doesn't even want a fucking challenge. Trust me. I've run into hundreds of players.
They like to flex their muscles.
They love to flex the muscle. Like, so if you give them like a guard, right, that you roll 1 die for, and he's really not a threat to anyone, they don't need to go up against another fucking gladiator of the 7th seal. No, they just want somebody that they can trash, and trash coolly. Like, I pick him up and I body slam him. Like, all right, that was a little bit excessive for a fucking bouncer at a bar, but okay.
I would advise not doing the people's elbow. One of my characters shattered his elbow.
His elbow doing that one. That was not a smart move.
Went off the top rope, tried to do the people's elbow. By the top rope, I mean the top stair.
It was the top stair. But the person who wants the crunchiness factor just wants to win. So I mean, that doesn't mean lay down. It's not like he doesn't want any challenge. You have to. It's the magic of storytelling. You have to feign like, oh, this person is totally a threat. Like one die. Oh my God, you beat the shit out of him again.
That doesn't just have to be one threat. I mean, like you can have a bunch of PUD guys like sneak out of the shadows, like we've had our eye on you, and he's like, oh yeah, like
I've been waiting for this.
Starts cracking his knuckles, like.
And trust me, let him have his fun.
Let him throw some guy through a window,
and the people who kind of enjoy crunchiness just a little bit, they get to get involved too.
They get their wins. It's probably more of a challenge for them, but for him, he's mopping the floor. Okay, he's having a great time. He's doing the helicopter, Contra, like.
Exactly. The crunchiness factor is that person is definitely one of the easier ones to satisfy. The political one is a little bit more difficult, because politicking and socialization, because for stereotypical role playing, D&D is by far the most public, the most popular system out there.
Yes.
And it is set in a fantasy setting that involves a lot of traps. So cerebral games are not hard to develop, in my personal opinion, because it's, hell, actually they are, because maybe it's for me, because like for me, writing cerebral games that involve like the solving of a riddle, fucking difficult for my shit. Like, I'm like, you turn the Sphinx, and like, why does the Sphinx turn?
Here's the problem with puzzle solving, and this is an aside from our topic, but I'm going to do it anyways. The problem with it is that if the riddle isn't simple enough to solve without a lot of thought put into it, like with you just only want you don't want it to bog down and stop the game, is the problem. So like, I gave you guys a riddle in my game. I don't know if you caught it. There was a riddle in my game.
No.
All right. When we get to the post-mortem on my game, after the end of it, I'll tell you where the riddle was. But there was a riddle in my game. And it was easy enough to solve that you happen to stumble upon the answer without actually solving the riddle. But had you thought about it, you would have solved the riddle. Like you said, the magic keywords.
I really want to play that sound. That's the crickets.
Yeah, but I threw it in there, and I knew that you guys. I'm like, it's easy enough that you guys should be able to solve it.
You forget I'm a moron.
Okay.
Sometimes you forget I'm an idiot.
But you guys still progressed through it just fine. I mean, you stumbled across the answer. I mean, the answer was literally written elsewhere in the room, and you just happened to say the phrase out loud.
Oh, well, outstanding. But cerebral games can be hard. But if that's what your party loves, like you've got 7 players at your table, and every last one of them love decoding the riddle of the Sphinx. And as long as you're cool with it as a storyteller, bully, ride on. Social games, can go hand in hand with action. Look at James Bond. Bond has a lot of action, but there's a lot of talking. There's a lot of like, I better discuss this, and talk to this person to find out where the money is.
Agent. He's got to ask the questions to get to the next action scene.
I'm thinking more Pierce Brosnan, James Bond, or actually some of the older Bonds. They talked a lot more than Daniel Craig. Daniel Craig shoots a lot of shit.
Yeah,
he's probably like
shoot first, ask questions later,
and like that's like since day one been his thing. Like, oh, I shot him. Totally forgot to ask him any questions. Thank God he was carrying around a business card for the villain. The fuck keeps a business card for your illegal employer in your pocket?
Well, that was lazy writing. When in Casino Royale, at least he was
okay. Casino Royale, but there was quite a deal of social in Casino Royale. I'm just thinking of the beginning where he kills the guy and forgets to ask any questions.
Well, that is the James Bond type, though. He's
No, no. Go back to like, Sean Connery. He would have been like, "Would you like a drink?" And then he would have socialized the answer out of him, or slept with some woman who would give him the answer, and then he'd kill the bad guy.
Okay.
But
whatever way you want to go.
Yeah, whatever way you want to go. Cerebral games, they essentially every time that you want to match that with violence, you got to create a trap, and then somehow the ass kicker of the group can overpower the trap. Excuse me. Sorry. But really what you want to make is a cake that everyone will enjoy. It's kind of like a wedding cake. You just kind of want a cake that everyone will get along with. Who doesn't love lemon cake? Is it going to be lemon?
2 flavors. There'll be a chocolate with a raspberry mousse. There'll be a yellow cake with a lemon cream.
Oh, I'm going to dominate that yellow cake with the lemon cream.
They are both quite tasty. They were so good, we had to choose 2.
Okay. I guess I'll have to try both.
Well, I hope there's enough for both. I think you'll serve 150 people, so I think we'll be okay.
Everyone will get one piece.
Yeah, I think everybody gets a piece.
And then I'll get the extra.
Or we do.
Or I will.
Jared, I haven't had a carb.
I haven't had a carb in 6 months. When looking into all that, try to make the cake palatable for everyone. And then, really when it comes down to it, you should really focus on spotlight moments for each individual person based off of their own emotional kick or what they want to do with their character. I love spotlight moments. Times where the cleric can be a cleric, And if you got a table of 6, right? And you can put them in one spotlight every 3 sessions, that's great. That's a great pace right there. And you still got your story going on. You're just creating a situation where the cleric will be needed. They could be random events. They could be planned events. They can be, somebody just started choking at the dinner table. Cleric, quick. You're medically educated. What is this thing called the Heimlich Maneuver?
I believe there is a maneuver designed by Sir Heimlich.
Well, the funny thing is that, we in the modern age are taught, in health class how to do the Heimlich. But, when you do a D&D set game, I have loved watching players inject their own knowledge and not play their character. I run across and give them the Heimlich Maneuver. You're an orc who didn't pass the 3rd grade. Where did you learn the Heimlich Maneuver?
He probably wouldn't do that. He'd probably go punch him in the stomach and hope that...
Or slap him on the back real quick.
Yep.
But you gotta make it special for the cleric. The cleric knows the Heimlich Maneuver.
He knows Sir Heimlich's maneuver.
He does. Well, he went to school for that shit. Okay, or religious studies, one of the two. But really knowing your players and making sure that those emotional kicks, those points that are really going to bring them closer to the game are present, and they're present with some frequency. You know what I mean? It's got to be often. Hey, this is what I'm giving you. But the cake's good enough for everyone to just sit down and eat. But you really want to put those spotlight moments in there. I've loved them. I use them all the time. I target specific players, and it's a 5-minute scene. It takes 5 minutes out of your gaming session to really give a player a moment of joy. And if you think about it, if your team is sitting there and they do 5 hours of gaming every session, you're taking 5 minutes, out of 300 to give one of your players that moment to shine. and then it goes back to normal stage lighting. Yeah, I think that's great. And just remember in the spotlight moments to always make sure that the spotlight is big enough so all the other characters don't disappear, but are rather just, they have light. It's just not the brightest. But yeah, knowing your players is a crucial point. And one of the things that you can do to get to know your players better, and I know a lot of storytellers don't do this, is ask them, talk, have a conversation. I wish I had done it with Ken. Ken, what do you really want in this game? What would you like to see? I think...
Again, even from when... it's been about a year since he left the group and stopped gaming with us, but even from when he left till now, we've evolved even more.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we've done a lot more in that regard. And I mean, it's not even, comparable when you look back on the other games, how much we've evolved.
Oh yeah, but I'm simply saying that talking to players.
But that's what I'm saying is that you would have probably talked with him now.
Yeah.
But looking back on it,
that wasn't someone else thinking about. But yeah, talking to the players, seeing what they want to see. Do we want more aspects of magic? Let's say it's low fantasy that has no magic, right? Or magic? No, it's low fantasy is like
Game of
Thrones, where magic is kind of like in the background. They're like, we really like a lot more magic in the game. I fucking love making spells. I want to make potions.
D&D 5e. So much magic. Everybody's got magic.
Awesome. There. We'll put...
That guy over there, he's probably got magic.
The one peeing against the wall? Yes.
Yeah. Fireball. Damn it.
Fuck. But yeah, if you made this low fantasy, and if it's something, but I do want to take the last 2 minutes to talk about something that's very important, is to make sure the game is palatable to you as the storyteller. You cannot do a sustained game that you hate telling. It's going to show. It'll show through.
You can do a short game that you don't like.
You could do a short game, like, okay, 2-3 sessions, that's it. But if you think that you're going to pull off a protracted campaign in feudal Japan when you really don't like that time period or that genre, that theme, it's not going to last. It's not meant to last. So always remember yourself in the equation. You have to enjoy the story you write. And when you're writing that story, after you've collected it, you looked at your players, you started crafting a story that your players will enjoy, make sure that you're always taking yourself into account. That if you're sitting there writing this story and you're like, well, this is fucking lame, go back to the drawing board. Go back to the drawing board and see what you can come up with.
That's excellent. Great point. You have anything else you want to add to this one?
No, I think that's about it.
All right. Well, again, KYP, know your players.
Know your players.
Know your players. That's the key here. But anyways, we appreciate you listening to the episode. If you have any thoughts on the episode, go ahead and contact us at levelupyourgamingpodcast@gmail.com or facebook.com/levelupyourgaming. You can also give us your episode suggestions there. We'd be happy to take any suggestions, do any episodes. And if you've implemented anything we've suggested before, let us know how it's worked for you, or not worked for you. Whichever way it ends up going, we'd appreciate to hear it both ways. And we're also on YouTube, so
engage that like button in a conversation about what it enjoys. It'll probably say, smash me, and then smash it.
Yes. And go ahead and subscribe to the podcast if you're not already subscribed. Review the podcast. Go ahead and suggest to a friend. Post it somewhere. People who like RPG podcasts. If you're at work, got a little tabletop group there at work. Bring us up at work. But anyways, no, we do really appreciate it, you all listening, and that's going to wrap us up for the week. So for Jared, I'm Aaron. Have a great week, everyone.
Have a great week, everyone.